Hi guys. Okay, so the last drawing that you're going to be doing is going to be a colour pencil drawing. So now we're looking at applying all those things that we've learnt from observational drawing and using them in a colour study. Now, unlike my coffee cup, I've chosen something much easier to draw this time. Because it's colourful, it's nice, and I have it here with me today. What we're going to do is, so exactly the same principles that we've done before. You're going to look at the shape of the object, you're going to mark that out first of all. The only difference being, this time I'm marking it out in a colour pencil, not in a lead pencil, and there's a very good reason for this. If I mark this apple out in lead pencil, what's going to happen is I'm going to get, when I start to add colour pencil, it's going to pick up that lead, it's going to make my colours look really muddy. So first of all, I'm working with an apple. It's as tall as it is wide, so it doesn't really matter whether I have my paper portrait or landscape, whereas when I did my cup, I had to have my book turned this way, which is landscape, because that was the best fit for the cup that I was drawing. In this instance, it doesn't really matter, so I'm going to turn it this way. I've got my apple in a position that I quite like, and I'm going to choose the lightest colour that exists within my apple, which is a light yellow. And then I'm just going to now you're probably going to struggle to see this on your screen. So do you know what, I'll switch over to an orange. Let's see if that, now I'm only using this orange because I know you're going to struggle to see that yellow from when I've done other videos. So I'm going to start off with a circle. Now the same principles apply as if you were using a lead pencil. You're gonna go light, okay? Don't go too dark. Now I am pressing more firmly and I am using orange because I know you're gonna struggle to see otherwise. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a higher angle just here, and then it drops down. Now I'm looking at this part of my apple here, and that's gonna be much lower down my apple than my brain is trying to tell me that it is. And it is 1, 2, yeah, so it's about a quarter of the way down. So 1, 2, so we actually need that slightly higher. Let's move that up to there. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's about right. So let's move that up to there. So again, not being afraid to adjust and move things around to make sure that we've got them in the right place. And again, going back to that cup drawing, you know, if I was to carry on working into that, you know, it's going to take a long time. There's going to be lots of toing and froing, lots of moving lines and adjusting, and I'm not afraid of doing that. You know, that's important. You know, you're constantly calculating and working out how something looks. Okay, so I've got my shape in. Feel quite happy with that. I think it's probably a little bit thinner down the bottom here. Probably a bit thinner down the bottom there as well. I think that's probably not too bad. Okay, so much easier to mark out, okay? And then once I've done that, I'm going to start to build my colours up. I'm going to start with my lightest tone and I'm going to work up. So I'm starting with a yellow. Now the natural light is coming from over here. So I have a highlight across the top of my apple that sits around about there. And I'm just going to put that in yellow so that I don't forget about it, because sometimes as you're kind of drawing and shading things in, you stop seeing things, and I need that highlight because it's going to help. So I'm just going to use some yellow here. I'm just going to start to add on this kind of initial colour. Now my highlight at first glance looks white, and some bits of it will be, but there'll also be other colours in there, the colours of the surface of the apple, but just a lot lighter. So I'm probably going to be seeing some pinks, some very light oranges. Now as I'm applying this yellow, I want you to notice what's happening with my pencil. I'm curving around the apple, and this is called directional line. A directional line helps the viewer, so the person who's looking at your drawing, helps them to understand what is happening on the surface. So bringing this yellow all the way around. And at this point, I'm going to bring it across the rest of my apple, but I don't need to be quite so full with the colour. Don't need to pack it in and make it as bright as on the other side. But you see now that the direction that I'm working in has changed. So on this side I'm curving this way. Now I'm over on this side, I'm starting to curve the other way, like so. And when I get to the top of my apple, that directional line is going to move up and over the top. Straight up, just here, curving round there. So curve, 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 straight, curve, 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 and straight there. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to my next darkest colour. And I'm going to choose this orange. This is the one that I started to work with at the beginning. I'm going to be a little bit more selective where I put this because I've got some green areas of this apple. I don't want to put too much orange over that just at the moment. So I'm looking for those more orange areas, and I'm just going to start bringing that in. Actually, that said, what I'm really looking for are those yellow areas, making sure that I don't cover them up too much. Now for me, they kind of sit more towards the bottom of this apple. So I'm going to come around gently with my orange and just start to bring that down. Now it's also worth me mentioning at this point, once I've finished with my yellow pencil and once I've finished with my orange pencil, applying that kind of first layer, it's not the last time I'm going to use them. I'm going to be able to go back and I'm going to use them when I start really working into that surface texture on the surface of the orange. So don't think, oh, I've used my orange, I can't go back, because you absolutely can. Now as I come around this side, my orange, my apple, too many fruits in my brain, my apple starts to get very red. So I can afford really at this point to just bring a nice coating of orange over the whole thing. It's probably most of it's going to get lost to the red. And then as I get to about here, I can start to see that yellow coming back in again down the bottom. So I'm just going to ease off on that orange, not too much. A little bit at the bottom, leaving this section around here a bit more yellow. And then from here, I'm going to move into my red. Actually, do you know what? I'm not. I'm going to go to my green first. Now, I'm not going to keep talking through this video. I'm going to let you just watch now. But the things I need you to make a note of are how I'm using my colour. So I'm going to cycle through the colours first off, yellow to orange to red. This is going to have some blue and some purple in it. And that's going to be for my darker areas. And I really want you to make a note of how and where I use those because it's really important. A lot of people don't realise that that's what you use for your darker tones. So I've got a bit of green in there. I'll get some on my stalk as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking. You're going to be watching this on high speed, which I think is a bit better for you guys. Make a note of the colours, and hopefully it's going to help you when you come to do yours. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and I'm hoping, well, you can see now, just as I'm using my rubber here, you get some really good highlighting effects when you've already coloured, and then you use your rubber just to lift out, because it gives you those really pale versions of the colours that you're trying to capture. So I'm hoping that that's kind of giving you, I mean, again, just like my cup, this isn't finished. I mean, really, with something like this, you could just go on forever. But I think that's enough sort of information for you to have a good starting point, to know what you need to do to get these looking really good. And I'm sure they'll look amazing. So, well, I think we're going to give you at least 2 lessons, if not 3 lessons on this, so you've really got time to explore those colours. Really remember what I said about the use of colour. So in this one, you know, to get those darker tones, I used blue, I used purple, and I used brown. Now you would probably look at this apple and think, well, that's got a bit of orange and a bit of red in it. But you've got to really look. If you use a red, there's only so dark that this is ever going to go. If you want to get a darker red, even if I push really, really hard, it's only ever going to get as dark as that. And if you want to show a dark red, you have to use a blue or a brown over the top. And actually colour pencils blend really well together. And when you use those blues and browns in it, they don't look odd. You'd assume and think that they probably would do, but they don't. They actually look completely normal. And actually, whilst I remember, the one last thing that you can do with these, which really finishes them off beautifully and is really, really important, is add onto your page the shadow that the apple creates on the surface that it's sitting on. So in this case, it's one of the classroom desks. And if I just bring in some blue to start with, I'm looking now at that shadow and where that shadow is underneath that apple. And I'm just bringing that in around these edges, fading it out. It's probably a bit much just over that side there. I just use my rubber to lift that out. And then I'm going to switch over to a brown. I know already that if I mix a blue and a brown together, I'm going to get myself a really nice dark tone that can go right underneath where that apple is on the table. And that's going to help to give it a bit more depth and to give it a bit more what we call context. So it doesn't look like it's floating on the page anymore. It looks like it's sitting on a surface, and that's the shadow that it's creating. So I hope that's helpful. Can't wait to see what you're going to do. You always do such beautiful work. It's going to be great to have a look at it. So enjoy.